In the afternoon, Jim Jefferson keeps pushing his loyal ladies forward. Hoffy, recognizing that he's got a bit of a tough fight, gives him a company from the C-Force to act as left flank protection. So Sid Thompson, under Hoffy's orders, gives D Company to the Loyal Eddies. So as the Loyal Eddies, they continue clearing up Highway 16, which is now Corso Bianchi. And they're thrusting in urban operations doctrine. They're doing a thrust, which means they're clearing buildings as they're moving from point A to point B to point Z. Loyal Eddies. B Company on the right side of the highway gets in and breaks in and gain lodgment to Ortona. D Company with Big Jim Stone on the left, not so lucky. Jim Stone does two frontal attacks. He whittles his company down from 90 to 30 troops. He wants to go in behind B Company, and Colonel Jefferson says, no, we got to keep Highway 16 open. So Jim Stone's not too happy. He's going to do a third frontal attack when one of his platoon commanders says, sir, it's James Dugan, his platoon commander says, sir, I'm going to take 10 of your guys, and we're going to infiltrate in behind the Pensione, and we're going to come in and attack the Germans from behind. And he's able to do that successfully. And then D Company's able to break in and gain lodgment. They take some German prisoners, and they hand the prisoners over to Lieutenant Alan Johnson, the scout commander, and that's why the Pensione becomes Johnson's house. Meanwhile, the C-Force on the right, C Company spends the morning clearing out the Church of Santa Maria de Constantinople. It's about a 4-hour battle, but they do that quite successfully. In the afternoon, Jim Jefferson keeps pushing his loyal ladies forward. Hoffy, recognizing that he's got a bit of a tough fight, gives him a company from the C-Force to act as left flank protection. So Sid Thompson, under Hoffy's orders, gives D Company to the Loyal Eddies. So as the Loyal Eddies, they continue clearing up Highway 16, which is now Corso Bianchi. And they're thrusting in urban operations doctrine. They're doing a thrust, which means they're clearing buildings as they're moving from point A to point B to point Z. And they spend the rest of the afternoon and the evening doing that, getting up to Piazza Vittoria. The C-Force on the right, now that they have the Church of Santa Maria de Constantinople, Sid Thompson moves the rest of the battalion up to the church, and he pushes C Company out to act as like an early warning, just in case the Germans do anything silly like a counterattack or anything of the such. And that ends the day on the 21st. Now, throughout this entire time, you have the tanks from the Three Rivers Regiment supporting them. You have the Royal Canadian Engineers supporting them. And you have Major Tiger Welch's 90th Anti-Tank Battery supporting them. There's lots of rubble piles on the secondary streets. But Tiger Welch, which I think is the coolest name ever, by the way, Tiger Welch from the 90th Anti-Tank Battery, he's got, I know the German paratroopers don't have tanks, but why have the guns sit idle? So he brings up his 6-pounder anti-tank guns. He co-locates them with the Loyal Eddies 6-pounders, and they start blowing away the rubble piles and start destroying defensive positions that are covering the rubble piles. So it's a great use of anti-tank guns and tanks to blow away the rubble piles, which are also sewn with booby traps and improvised explosive devices. Yeah. And that's a great way of lowering those rubble piles and getting rid of the booby traps. And so those anti-tank guns are quite critical to the battle. Same with the tankers. Yep. So we see here the Loyal Eddies on the top moving through one of the secondary streets, and then you can see the damage later on the 23rd of December. Some of the damage that's occurred on the same street as German Fallschirmjäger are brought back as prisoners of war. Okay, the 22nd of December, the Loyal Eddies are going to continue fighting. What's happening is they bring up 4 tanks and their anti-tank guns the south side of Piazza Vittoria, and they start blasting away German positions around Piazza Vittoria. And they take most of the morning to clear that piazza. Meanwhile, Sid Thompson still has D Company supporting the Loyal Eddies by protecting the left flank by going up via Rapino a bit. That's this small little jut right there. And then meanwhile, throughout most of the day, most of the C-Force are inside the Church of Santa Maria de Constantinople, and it's taken mortar rounds from somewhere. And finally, there's a C-Fourth observation post that finally spots the German mortar team that's bombing the church. And they're able to scatter them with Canadian artillery, but not before the Germans destroy an ammunition truck and the intelligence officer's jeep just outside of the Church of Santa Maria de Constantinople. And Sid Thompson, and very daring for a commanding officer, his own jeep was parked right beside these 2 vehicles. He actually gets into his jeep and drives his own jeep away. But very daring for a commanding officer to do that, if you ask me. At the end of the day, Hoffy tells Sid Thompson, Sid, I need you to move your battalion up to Piazza Vittoria, just in case things start to get a little hairy with the Loyal Eddies. Now, the Loyal Eddies are able to get to the other side of Piazza Vittoria. Remember, they've been doing thrusting. They've been clearing buildings en route. So at this point, Big Jim Stone, the officer commanding D Company, he's like, you know what? I've been losing casualties like crazy. I've been getting casualties like crazy. I don't want to clear buildings anymore. What I just want to do is I just want to drive my tanks from the Three Rivers Regiment up the streets with my engineers and bypass all these buildings and get up to Piazza Municipale. So he asked Jim Jefferson for that permission to do that. Jim Jefferson's like, go, Jim, go ahead and do it. And he does exactly that. He has the tanks blare their sirens as loud as possible. And with his engineers and infantry leading the way, they bypass all the buildings along the Corso Vittorio Emanuele all the way up to Piazza Municipale. And they run into this huge rubble pile. It's got to be about 20 feet high. It's got improvised explosive devices and booby traps in it too. And so the tanks stop. And Jim Stone runs up and he goes, why you stop? Keep going. And one of the tankers says, I think there's a landmine under that piece of sheet metal right there, and I don't want to go any further. And Jim Stone is livid. He's like cursing at the tank commander. He's like, you got to keep going or else the Germans are going to start open firing on us. We seem to have gained some momentum here. And the tank commander's like, no way. My tank cost $20,000. No way I'm going to do that. And Jim Stone's like, every infantry soldier I got is worth $1 million a piece. At this point, the Germans realize the Canadians have stopped. And they start firing at the Loyal Eddies, and they start breaking in with their engineers, start breaking into the buildings. The engineers are actually critical at this point because the tank commander was right. There was a bunch of landmines in front of the rubble pile. And so one of the engineers, he actually runs out. He throws a smoke grenade out to create so the Germans can't see him. And he and his engineers run out, and they actually start hucking the landmines out of the way, picking up the landmines and throwing them out of the way, so that they can try to get into the Piazza Municipale. They have to throw a couple smoke grenades to do this, but it's Sergeant George Campion who ends up doing this and winning the military medal for doing it as well. But at this particular point, once the evening comes around, this is as far as the Loyal Eddies have got. But this is Piazza Vittoria looking from the northeast corner, looking west down the Via Rapino. This building actually still exists in Ortona itself.
Yep.
So if you go on Google Maps, you can actually see it. So this tank is pointing its cannon north up. So north is on the right side of this map here, up the Corso Vittorio Emanuele, and this tank is looking down the Via Rapino to the west.